Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Good afternoon. I am Councilwoman Shirley Lanier, representing District 3 for the city of Riviera Beach. And I'm happy that you guys came out this evening. The purpose of this meeting is to, number one, have some solution-oriented dialogue about schools in Riviera Beach. And secondly, in 2014, the city had a education advisory committee that we want to resurrect. And we also want to have a school liaison through that education committee. We want to really just kind of rejuvenate that committee with the city of Riviera Beach, because we do have, you know, 2 high schools, a middle school, 4 or 5 elementary schools. So we really need to have a conversation about education. And then, and of course, you know, people say that the government should not be involved, but this is the city of Riviera Beach. The schools are in our area, the schools are in our city, so we need to be concerned about them. So I wanted to have a conversation about that. Mr. Ferguson and I, Attorney Ferguson and I had a conversation about it as well, to be able to come and have, you know, he's going to have a presentation, and then we're going to have Ms. Roseanne Brown, she's not here yet, to talk about some of the work that they did do with the advisory committee when it was started. But I just really want to have a dialogue about, and I know there's been dialogue happening all over the state, all over the city, all over the county in regards to education. But my concern, of course, is, you know, all children, but I want to specifically figure out how we can help best the children in Riviera Beach, the teachers in Riviera Beach, so that, and the parents in Riviera Beach. Because I think that when we start talking about some of the issues with the schools, you know, I've always asked this question: how do we get parents more involved in the school? And everybody has all of these different types of solutions, but it's not working. You know, when you go to a PTA meeting or you go to a parent-teacher night, it's very few of us who are there. And we need to figure out how we're going to get parents, because we can't do it by ourselves. We can't just, you know, in the school system and say that, you know, we can, but we can only do so much. So we need to have some solutions, at least some dialogue about what could work, some best practices, so that we can kind of get on the ball in terms of our schools, because of course, you know, from Tallahassee, they're not even playing up there. So we really need to be concerned about our schools and about what we're teaching our children, and you know, and the parents and the children. I mean, that's what's most important. So I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Ferguson. He has a presentation, but after that, we want to have some conversation about how we're going to improve our schools in Riviera Beach.
Good evening, everyone. No, we got to do better than that. Good evening, everyone. I want to first thank Councilwoman Lanier for inviting me to this event. I was planning to do a state of District 7 schools in I was going to go to Suncoast and also in Atlantic, since they're district-run schools, but Councilwoman Lanier thought it would be good for me to come in and give a specific presentation as it relates to the middle school and elementary schools here in Riviera Beach. So in working with Mr. Miller and his staff down at the district, we compiled these slides, and I think it's going to be a positive meeting tonight. So just so you all know, Councilwoman Lanier told me to keep this under 30 minutes, so I am going to be somewhat brief, but then that will allow us to have a more robust dialogue. Is that all right with you all? All right, so I want to start with our presentation on the schools here in Riviera Beach. Again, is really tailored to the middle and elementary schools. So Kennedy, Bethune Elementary, Washington Elementary, West Riviera, and Lincoln Elementary. So first of all, this is being aired on TV, so I'm going to give everybody 30 seconds. The slides that I'm about to show you, you can scan that QR code, and you will have access to all the information that I'm presenting. So it's a new day. In that regard, I really believe it's important to make sure that the resources and the information get out into the community. It's not good enough just for me to tell you what I'm relying on. I want you all to see it for yourselves, because maybe in collaborating together, we might find some additional avenues for success for our children, not just here in Riviera Beach, but throughout Palm Beach County and the state of Florida. And I'm going to put this QR scan back up at the end too. So if you don't get it now, it'll be back up once I get to the last slide. So today's presentation is going to be fairly brief, just an introduction to myself for those, I guess, handful of you who may not know of me or have heard of me. I'll give you a quick statement on who I am. Campaign promises, there were several that were made by myself as I was campaigning, and I want to give you all an update on where we stand with bringing those to fruition. Then we're going to get into the data about the schools, the middle school, Kennedy Middle School, and the 4 elementary schools that I just mentioned. And then we're going to have a brief conversation on the Riviera Beach High School, the need for an actual high school here in Riviera Beach. And then we're going to open it up to the floor for questions. Now, as far as I'm concerned, that's me, smiling with a yellow tie. I got one on today too. I'm married. My wife, her name is Keely. Many of you all know my wife. She's a news anchor here in West Palm Beach. She works on Channel 5 and Channel 29. She's the main sports anchor. Presently, she works Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday to help free me up for what I'm doing here. So I really appreciate her support in that regard. We have 2 children. My son, Xavier, he is 7. He's on the autism spectrum, so I'm very much an advocate for making sure that we have more resources in the Black community and throughout all of Palm Beach County, really, for families who are dealing with children who are on the autism spectrum. And my daughter, she turns 5 on Friday. Her name is Abby. She is what I call the honcho. She definitely thinks she is my boss. She's 5 going on 50. So she's the best. As the slide indicates, I am the founder and president of the Ferguson firm, which is the longest running law office here in Riviera Beach. Now I'm in my 18th year. Many of the other firms have moved away or retired, and I'm still here. I'll tell you right now, the reason I chose Riviera Beach, it was intentional. I chose to work here in Riviera Beach. I was told that you cannot run a successful business, so-called successful business in Riviera Beach. And so I always felt that it was imperative for somebody like me to come back into the city and show through my acts for the future generations that if I did it, you can do it too. So I have no desire to leave Riviera Beach. The city has been good to me and continues to be good to me. And I think it's going to continue to be a fruitful relationship until I decide that I no longer want to practice law. And as you can see, I'm the school board member for District 7. For those of you who do not know, District 7 now runs, good evening, Commissioner Bernard, runs from Riviera Beach down into Delray Beach. Previously, it was Lake Park to Delray, but there was some rezoning, if you will, of the district just before my this last campaign. And so now it's Riviera Beach south into the essentially southeast side of Delray, basically from I-95, a little bit west of I-95 in Delray back to US 1. And as you can see, I guess the most important thing that you all should know is that I'm a diehard Dolphins fan and a Miami Heat fan, and I don't care who knows that. So go Dolphins and go Heat. So campaign promises. So I'm going to actually take these out of order from what you see. But when I was knocking on doors, and again, I want to thank the city of Riviera Beach, because without the city of Riviera Beach, I don't think it's a far reach for me to say I would not be your board member. So the city has supported me at every turn. And so I feel compelled to make sure that I support this city at every turn moving forward as well. But in any event, campaign promises, early childhood education, we're going to really do a deep dive into that one. But school safety, entrepreneurship, and the need for a comprehensive high school here in Riviera Beach. Let's talk about school safety and entrepreneurship. Now, most of you know that I ran for school board 4 years ago, and at that time I was not successful, but you also know, if you were following me and listening to me, I was expressing the importance of us increasing our school safety in all schools here in Palm Beach County. Remember, Stoneman Douglas happened roughly 4 years ago, 5 years ago now, and I was saying even before that happened, we're just somebody's bad day away from having something terrible happen. Then unfortunately, Stoneman Douglas happened, and so now I say we're just somebody's bad day away from having a Stoneman Douglas-like event. So we have to be much more vigilant in terms of screening all persons. So you can't just look at me and say, because I have on a suit, oh, he's a safe guy, he's a good guy. But then brother knows, because he has on a hat and a jacket, he may be suspect. You can't judge a book by its cover. So as such, I've always been advocating for metal detection devices and security officers who will wand persons down. And I'm happy to say in that regard, in regard to the state of schools here in Riviera Beach and Palm Beach County, the district is finally making affirmative steps toward hardening, if you will, the true border. So I know we're going to do a test program at select high schools here next year where we're going to have the metal detection devices set up and the students will be ushered through those devices to make sure they don't have any guns, knives, tasers, what have you. That's a great thing to help make sure that all of our schools are safe. Many of you know that we have the little, left it in the car. So most district employees have a little button that if there was an active shooter in their room, they could hit it a certain number of times and it would alert law enforcement that there's an active shooter in a specific area of the school. But again, I think the most proactive way of ensuring safety is to make sure that no guns get on campus in the first place. Am I right? So that's where we are as a district as far as that goes. Entrepreneurship. Now, I mentioned to you all that I'm the longest running attorney here in Riviera Beach, but I never told you actually what I did to put food on the table. When I started my office back in '05, directly out of law school, one of my primary focuses was criminal defense. And so being in the criminal courtroom, you become you get brought very close to some of the deficiencies historically that we have seen here in the school district. Students not necessarily prepared for gainful employment. Some students, and largely that's due to the fact that their reading level is not where it needed to be. And we're going to dig down into that later today. And the problem that I saw in the criminal courthouse was this. Certain persons would commit crimes, and they were not necessarily nefarious persons, not evil people at the core, but they made decisions trying to provide for themselves and their families. So they may break into a house, trying to steal something to pawn to get a meal or whatever the case may be. They were not necessarily drug addicts or things that you may see on TV, persons who made bad decisions. And so I always thought it was imperative to get to know my clients as far as you're not just a person or just somebody giving me a check. I need to know who you are because I need to be able to speak to things that could mitigate what the exposure or punishment would be for you. And a large number of those clients that I spoke with, they had deficits in their educational history. Maybe not even high school graduates. Some said they were, quote, socially promoted. So they kind of moved me along because I was too old. I was 15 or 16 years old. I can't still be in the 6th grade. So they kind of moved me on. But I still didn't know anything. But because of my age, they moved me on. And then there's a game where we're trying to, and I'm just saying this honestly, my perception on the outside, and I'm waiting to see if that is reality, that some of the graduation numbers aren't necessarily true graduation numbers if you're really holding people to hitting certain benchmarks. So again, I'm only 3 months in, so I'm telling you what I thought on the outside. Now it's my job to kind of see things for myself, and I'll bring you all back a report as well with the same data for you all to determine things for yourselves. But in any event, I saw a correlation between underperforming or undereducated people and high criminality. So why am I saying that? From an entrepreneurial standpoint, this is something that can help, and I use this word intentionally, liberate not just Riviera Beach, but all underserved areas of this country. Because if we have more locally run businesses who hire locally, so gainfully employ people here locally, you will find that you will have fewer people committing crimes. Because I can tell you that the greater majority of my clients who committed crimes were not gainfully employed. They were not financially solvent. And I believe that we have more locally run companies, we can help keep the dollars inside of the given cities and communities. This is not a new idea. There are many persons who have written books about this and have spoken on this. I'm just letting you know that I echo that sentiment. And I think that's something that we need to move forward as a community to do a better job of. And again, that is increasing the number of locally run companies that are sourced or that employ local residents as well. Now, in regard to kindergarten readiness, it really starts right here. Councilwoman Lanier made a comment about, I'm summarizing, state of education and some of the things that we're having to deal with up in Tallahassee. On the day-to-day, that's kind of out of our control, right? We have to wait for the next election cycle to vote for the candidate of our choice, or I guess in opposition of the candidate that we don't like. But from day to day, we still have to get by, right? So I think that what we really need to focus our energies on is making sure that all children are ready to excel from day one of kindergarten. When I was campaigning, I used to always have this little kind of catchphrase: those who start behind tend to stay behind, and those who start ahead tend to stay ahead. Well, in fact, it truly is those who start behind are almost certain to stay behind, and those who start ahead are almost certain to stay ahead. So if you know that, then I think we really should be focusing our resources in this area. So what you're looking at right now are scores for our elementary schools over the last 6 years. And again, I received this information from the district, Adam Miller and his team. And again, if you've downloaded these slides, you'll have these for yourself. You can kind of look through them and question or whatever the case may be. We can do a recap at some point in the future. But what you can clearly see here is the district average is only 52%. So 1 out of every 2 kids are really kindergarten ready. And I'm going to give you some data points in terms of how you determine if a child is kindergarten ready. But just based on what the district average is over the past 6 years, we can see that Bethune, going back to 2018, was starting to make positive gains, and then COVID happened. And that dip that you see amongst most of these schools, that's something that's fairly common throughout the county. We noticed that most of the schools, even the higher performing schools, there was a drop off compared to the years before COVID. So children at home being taught by persons who were not professional teachers, i.e. their parents, there was a drop off in that regard. So that does account for some of the dip that you see there. But just speaking plainly, we know that we want to be above that district average. Yes? I got to preach it. I need some help from the congregation. We want to be above the 52%, right? So how do we get there? Well, if you scan that QR code, you'll get access to those different hyperlinked items there. And I'll just read a couple of things off to you from that link. So when you click on the top link, it'll open up to some documents that say what your kindergartner should know. So it talks about a high frequency word list, early concepts about print. So for example, I'll read this to you. I know you all can read, but I'll just read this one section to you. It says, by the end of kindergarten, your student should be able to write their first and last name, recognize their name, and write all 26 letters of the alphabet, both upper and lowercase, know the correct sound or sounds that each letter makes, know the difference between a consonant and a vowel, and I think we all know what those are, so I won't get into that. Recognize rhyming words, read simple consonant, vowel, consonant words, so dog, bat, cat, rat, those type of things. There are kindergartners who can't do those things. So this is why those numbers are particularly troubling to me, that a 5-year-old not even masters that by kindergarten, they don't even have it mastered on the front end. So that's something that we as a community should be helping them. So my position is not to judge a child or their parents for necessarily being deficient in those areas, but to come there in the spirit of humility and give them the information to help them raise their performance. That's the space that I'm in, and that's why I'm here now. So this is going to be at minimum an annual thing where I'm going to be bringing you all resources to help reshape the educational paradigm, if you will, here in Riviera Beach and throughout Palm Beach County. Now, in terms of English language arts, again, the numbers speak for themselves. District averages, again, roughly around 50%, 56%. I mean, roughly 1 out of every 2 children when they start testing for ELA, which is in the 3rd grade. Yes? Okay. I'm learning, y'all. By the 3rd grade. So in the 3rd grade, there, you see the numbers. So here in our local schools, we didn't have a year where any of our schools were even at the district average. We want to be better. So how do we do that? And again, for those who just arrived here, these slides, there's a QR code that I'm going to show at the end. So if you're interested in taking these slides home and breaking them down yourselves, you can just scan the QR code and everything will be available for your review. Sight words. Pre-kindergarten, so that's going to be your 3 and your 4-year-olds. If you click on this link, you will, and Walt, if you don't mind, could you click on that for them just so everybody can see? These are the adult sight words that educators expect your 4-year-old, 3 or 4-year-old to have mastered. So you all see many of those words, and those are words that are commonly found in books that are age appropriate for a 4-year-old child. So you will want to, for those who are watching this or will watch this later, the suggestion is that you make cards or buy those cards that have these little words and do a 5-minute Q&A with the child each day until they show mastery of these words, where they just see it off the bat. A, one, play, read, said, go, etc. But they should have those mastered cold by before they turn 5. So age 4. That's the challenge that I'm putting out there to the community and the concerned citizens. Make sure that all of our children here in Riviera Beach have mastered these words by the age of 4. And if they have not mastered the words, that we need to help them, because we cannot just put it all on the teachers. They do have the child for the greatest amount of time on a day-to-day basis, let's be candid, but it's not all the time in the day. It's 24 hours in the day. The child is normally at school, 6 to 8 hours, roughly 8 hours, let's just say 8 hours, but 6.5 hours, however long it is, but we still got another 3/4 of the day that they're not in school. So we have a fiduciary duty to these children as well. They're our babies, whether they were born in your house or not. They're your children, Riviera Beach. So take ownership of them. That'll be the only time I preach to y'all tonight, because I told you I'm not really here for that. We're here to try to come up with some solutions to this problem. But Walt, if you wouldn't mind clicking on the 5th grade link, please. Because reading comprehension is something that we as a community, we as a race, as Black people, we've struggled with that in the educational sphere, at least, getting the greater majority of our children to be reading at or above. And I believe we should always be above level. If you tell me I'm at level, that's the minimum for me. If you're telling me that I'm below the level, I got problems, because again, I'm behind. And what did we say earlier about those who start behind are almost certain to stay behind? I don't want to get left behind. I keep thinking of the brides, man. I see some preachers up in here. I don't want to be like those few that got left because their oil wasn't trimmed right. I always want to be where I need to be. So I think we should be encouraging our children each day to master these words. So even look at these words for 5th grade. Not particularly complex words. And I'll tell you this, there's some adults who struggle with these words. So I'm not shading anybody, but we all can do better, and we should be doing better. So if you can help, please help. So they're 5th graders who apparently don't know cry when they see it, or broom, or bridge, or doctor, or porch. These are fairly elementary words. And again, these are the words that the district and other educational organizations are expecting the child in 5th grade to show mastery. So again, download these slides, and when you get home with your child of whichever age, make sure that they not only master, say, their 2nd or 3rd grade level, but go back to the 1st in the kindergarten and pre-K 4. They need to know all of those words, right? Are y'all with me? Okay. All right, so we're gonna move along, because I really want to get to the Q&A. Now, this link right here, I'm not going to click on this, but for those who don't necessarily have books at home, you can have access to all the free books you want by going to this site right here. So again, download the QR scan that's going to be at the end of this slide presentation, and you'll have access to all of these slides. So Starfall, Story Plays, Unite for Literacies, Story Nori, they all have a number of books that for free that you and your children can read at home. And I say you and your children because I have learned that part of the issue may be that we don't have completely fluent parents at home. So education never stops. So even if you are not where you want to be, don't be discouraged. Spend time reading with your child. Read that same 1st or 2nd grade book. There is no shame. The only shame is if you stay there. You understand? So take advantage of these resources. And again, the next time you see me, I will be bringing more resources. So when you see me, think of me almost like an educational Santa Claus, because whatever I know, you all will know too. All right? Now, as to mathematics. Now, this one was an interesting slide to me. And I think this actually is largely to be credited to the focus of the teachers. I've noticed, I've visited all 34 schools of District 7 in the first 30 days. And there is an intensity as it relates to math it's palpable. You can see it when you go into the schools. The teachers definitely know, hey, look, I got to get these math scores up. And apparently the children are receptive to that. Now, when we go to science, not so much. I think there's a correlation talking to some educators. I'm representing for educators now. I'm not speaking as if I'm the expert here. There's a correlation between reading comprehension, and sometimes it makes it more challenging for the children to be as proficient as they would want to be in science. But nevertheless, as it relates to math, the scores speak for themselves. Bethune, for example, in 2019, just before COVID, just under the district average. Lincoln Elementary, formerly Mrs. Porter, 68%. Now you see that drop. Again, that's something that I have seen throughout the district. So in that regard, I'm representing to you all that that's not a Riviera Beach specific thing. That's a district, and frankly, it's probably a nationwide thing. Again, we had our children at home with persons who were not trained teachers, their parents, and I heard some more stories about parents that were pulling their hair out saying, please send these kids back to school, mask or no, but that wasn't the space that we were in, and those numbers are being borne out. Now, what I hope We have a new standardized test that our children are taking this year. My hope is that we will see, relatively speaking, a bump in terms of proficiency in English, math, science, and social studies. But nevertheless, back to my point about the schools here in Riviera Beach, you see that we actually are, generally speaking, fairly close to that average. Room for improvement, yes, and we're going to talk about some resources that can help, but not as deficient as you will see we are in science, for example. I want to speak to Kennedy too, because you all have eyes just as good as mine. Kennedy is a school that I think is a poster child for what happens when a community turns its back on itself. So there's a perception among some people that Kennedy is a, quote, bad school. Kennedy is a school that I would never send my child to. I might send my enemy's child to Kennedy, but that's where all the bad kids go. And I would tell you that I've made a point to get to meet the principals, and Mr. Clark is a jewel of a principal that we have at Kennedy. I'll tell you a story. I'll say the parent's name is Lady. It was not Lady Morris, but since I'm looking at it, I'm gonna say her name was Lady. I went to the honor roll breakfast roughly a month ago. The young lady recognized me from campaigning and things of that nature, and she wanted to wish me well and congratulate me for winning. I said, okay, thank you for that, sis. And I asked her about her daughter or a child. I didn't know she had a daughter at the time. And she said, oh, my daughter, she's in the 7th grade. And Mr. Ferguson, let me tell you this. I tried like heck not to have my child go here. I tried to fabricate an address, but I guess I wasn't as good as it is others in other areas of the county. So my child was forced to go to Kennedy. And let me tell you this right now. They are doing an amazing job with my child. Teachers reach out to us daily to let us know what the requirements are, what the homework assignments are. They ask us, you know, Ms. Wells, are you having any trouble understanding the homework assignment that was sent for Johnny or Jane? And Mr. Clark and his team are doing an exceptional job at Kennedy. And if you look at the numbers from that context, Mr. Clark has been there 3 years, 27, 29, 36. All you can do is measure a person by where they start and where they finish. So relative to where they're starting, I see substantial gains at Kennedy. And I'm letting anybody know who's hearing me and understanding me that JFK is a great school for your students to go to. You have great leadership there. And if we support that school more, we'll see much more gains at JFK. So I definitely endorse JFK. I endorse all of these schools where our Riviera Beach babies are. How you doing, Mr. Wiley? Good to see you. If you click on, again, if you scan this QR code, these hyperlinks that you see to your left, success tips for K through 2 and 3 through 5 in the Savas Realized Parents' Corner, those things will all be made available to you. And I want to recognize Ms. Granger. She's the principal at Bethune Elementary. She too is doing a good job, excellent job, I should say, for the citizens and the students of Riviera Beach. I've been working with her now for several years, and I'm very much impressed with her and her staff. Science. So this is the bugaboo across the county. So again, I just want to keep you all in proper context, because looking at these numbers, you may say, "Oh, Riviera Beach is so bad." It's not just a Riviera Beach thing; it's a countywide thing. Okay. So again, when I've asked teachers and principals, they lay it at the foot of reading comprehension. So apparently, in the principals and teachers that are here, you all, again, I see to you all, you are the subject matter experts. So I'm just parroting what you all have told me. I've not taught in over 20 years, and I taught in high school, AP Chemistry at Suncoast and Algebra 1 ESOL at Palm Beach Lake. So it was a different time. So again, I'm just parroting what teachers and principals have told me, but what they have told me thus far is that there's a correlation between reading comprehension and these poor science scores. So again, that goes back to the importance of early childhood education. If it's impressed upon the child early on the importance of reading and being fluent and comprehending what you're reading, these scores quite naturally will go up, because the teachers do have the requisite passion and commitment to educating our children. But there is a little bit of a roadblock there that I believe is partly due to the lack of comprehension of the students. So we have to kind of get our arms around that sooner than later, and you'll see these scores bump up. I mean, the district average is 58. So I can't really, I'm a lawyer, and I guess I paid to put a smiley face on or a silver lining on gray clouds all the time. But clearly we want to improve those numbers. Those numbers are not where we want to be. I'm not going to blow smoke at you. But again, with your support, I'm very confident that these numbers will jump up in a short period of time. Again, here's another link to things that you can use at home and in your communities and churches to help increase your parishioners, your children, your neighbors' proficiency in the area of science. So ask a question, make a hypothesis, conduct an experiment, collect data, analyze information. And this is just healthy for us as citizens to dialogue and commune with one another. So many of us now are kind of getting stuck in our phones and getting into our own little matrix, if you will. It's time for us to kind of come back out of that and get to our natural space, which is to commune and dialogue with one another. So by you talking with your children and your neighbors and your parishioners, you're helping strengthen this community. All right? Now, social studies, this is a class that's offered at the middle school level. So this is why you only see JFK there. And you see that the district average is 70. So most students, as this would tend to indicate that social studies is an easy course, right? The district average is 70%. So a lot of the students seem to do well. And for the most part, JFK has tracked fairly close to the district average. There was a dip last year. Mr. Clark has a basketball game, so he was not able to be here. So I can't really give an accounting for that. But again, I put a great amount of the overall performance of our schools to the support that we as citizens give them. So for example, those of you who know about public education in Palm Beach County know the town of Wellington, or the city of Wellington does a very good job, beyond a yeoman's job, supporting all of their schools. They're very intentional and deliberate about where they deliver their treasure, their money, but also their time in terms of PTA and volunteering and things of that nature. And it does tend to play out that their scores annually, and I see a NAP Councilwoman Kashamba Miller Anderson, I'm sure she could testify to this as well, but you see that their scores generally track above the district average. I would submit to you it's not because the students are smarter than the students in Riviera Beach. I would submit to you that they have been better resourced over time, and this is just the natural results of that support. So again, I want to encourage us to be more engaged and more intentional in everything we do as it relates to our children, because what is more important than us setting our children up for success? It's not accruing money and amassing money and riding big cars. It should be about us laying a pathway to success for all of our children. At least that's what they told me in school and church and things of that nature. So I drank that Kool-Aid and I believe that. And this is where I am in regard to these scores. Again, additional resources for persons who want to help their children increase their proficiency in social studies. For those who just came in, once we get to the end of the slide, there's another QR code that you can scan. So all of the slides that I've been mentioning, you can download those or break them down. If you need to speak with me, I'll be more than happy to talk to you at a later date and time. This is Brain Pop. Do we have elementary? Ms. Granger, she could tell you about this better than I can, but I did look at it. So if you hit the QR scan, it pulls up different videos and interactive materials that you as a family can work with your child to help increase their proficiency in school. And so again, these are free resources that are available. And so again, I feel it's my job as the board member to make those available, make you aware of them, and also make them available to you. So again, this is going to be something that I will consistently do. As I find out about more information, we're going to have additional conversations so that I can bring the information to you, because this is something that we need in order to change our annual and our historic performance here in Riviera Beach and across Palm Beach County. Now, how can you help? I've been saying how you can help for a while now. But again, as you can see, just be more engaged. So again, I mentioned to you all that I visited all 34 schools in the first 30 days. And generally speaking, particularly here in Riviera Beach, because a lot of our schools are, quote, Title I. So we have a lot of students who qualify for free and reduced lunch. So we'll have SAC, but we don't have PTA. It's like the organization where the parents will come and help raise money to help, say, Brother Carl is a social studies teacher at Bethune Elementary, and he wants to take the kids to Deer Park Zoo or something like that. Well, they might need a little extra money because it's not actually in the budget that's been allotted by the district. So I think that we should do a better job as a community of supporting these schools financially. You know, I was thinking, hey, if every child's parent gave even $10 a year, based on the relatively speaking, small amount of money that these principals have told me they could use each year, i.e. $5,000 roughly, we would have that. And then they would be able to take the kids to these different areas to be exposed to different events and things of that nature. I've been told, and I actually have heard from clients, grown men who literally have told me they've not gone much past Southwest Palm Beach or Lake Park in their 20s. That's absurd. This is a beautiful county. People spend millions and millions of dollars to come here every year, and our kids are locked in their city of residence. We shouldn't stand for that. And I'm saying to you again, with just a small donation of your own personal treasure, even $10 or whatever you can afford. I see Brother Cunningham here. He could probably afford a lot more than that. I'm not going to shake him down in front of you all, but but we can do a great thing for these schools in short time. In fact, to that point, one thing that I've already committed myself to doing is the reason I went to meet with all my principals throughout District 7 is because I wanted to know where their shortfalls were. And so I did a good job of raising money for myself as a candidate, but that's not of any value to me now. I'm already planning to use those same contacts to engage with the principals in their surrounding area to help make sure that those principals have a platform of money they can count on each year, even if it's just $2,500 or $5,000. And I'm asking for you as concerned citizens to also chip in. So, Mr. Wiley, I know you live close to a particular school. Maybe you speak to that principal. She's here tonight. And pledge, whatever. There's another big money person here, $5 for the year, whatever works for your budget. I would never presume what somebody has, but I would presume that everybody has something that they could donate, even if it's $1. I see Lynn Hubbard. I'm feeling like $100 donation coming on here in the next week. Lynn is a longtime member of Greater Bethel with me, so I took a little liberty there, but I really feel like 200 is coming on. 500? 500? Okay. Let's split that between Washington and Bethune. And then, let me stop. Let's stay focused. So again, PTA, going to open house. So to be honest, a lot of this information that I'm presenting to you all are things that you likely would have seen had you gone to an open house. And I say that not from a position of judgment, but just speaking frankly that many of the principals say, hey, our turnout for open house is not necessarily what it should be, or even if they show up for open house, we have other activities that we really would love to have the parental engagement, and we don't see them. And that's problematic. A lot of these things, hey Gary, how you doing, brother? A lot of these things that I'm presenting to you are shown in those different spaces. So I encourage you all to encourage your neighbors and your friends to be engaged, be an active parent. It's not a glorified daycare center to go to public school, right? Because again, we want our children to one day be leaders, not just persons with their hand out asking for help. If we come from where we say we come from, and I see Brian Knowles over there, we should not abide by these scores any longer. I'm about to bring Brian up here one day to let y'all. That was a softball pitch to Brian, and we need to support Brian in his activities too at the district. He's doing a really good job, so follow him. Brian, what's your IG handle? Teach Heal, Heal, Build, Build. The brother is really committed to doing some positive things for us here in Palm Beach County. Again, I mentioned about the donations for the schools, but it's bigger than just making donations, because some of these children come from homes where they don't necessarily see us, particularly Black males, consistently. So I'll speak to Ms. Granger. I keep wanting to call her pastor, but Principal Granger. And she even has told me over the years, it's great, Ferguson, if you come here and mentor for this 1 year for, career day or whatever the case may be, but it's the consistency that I really, really, really would want. And every single principal that I've spoken to, Dr. Lee was here earlier, everybody that I've spoken to, they say the same thing. It's the consistency, because the children to see you come, they're used to people coming for the little feel-good photo op. Here, let me hang around and take photos with the little under-resourced kids. All right, guys. All right, you guys be good. And they're sitting there starving and looking for that consistency of a relationship with somebody who is what they think they want to be one day. So they may want to be a Robbie Littles, but if Robbie Littles just tells them that excellent poem that one time, it ain't gonna have necessarily the intended effect. They need you to come back every quarter, every month, every year, and give them that same poem. And Mr. Littles knows what I'm talking about, because I got a copy of it at home. Your son gave it to me, so I read it, but I can't say it as well as you. So that's why I'm gonna stand quiet now and just say that poem would be a great value to these children. But again, just being consistent in your engagement with the schools will have, again, exponential positive value to the children in our schools. And then sponsorships for those of us who have businesses. Let's set aside money in our budget each year to go to the school or schools of our choice. Now, Suncoast, I see Ms. Kearney here. She's one of the handful of schools that has a foundation, so she is not necessarily in the same space that I'm representing to you that these elementaries and these middle schools are. But be that as it may, a lot of the schools in Riviera Beach really could use your support in terms of, again, volunteering and or making donations. So please consider that moving into next year. Pick a school or schools of your choice and support them in their efforts to help educate our kids in the optimum way. Now, Riviera Beach High School, the fourth promise that I spoke about, at least here in Riviera Beach, and everybody who knows me knows that I've been on this since, and I see Darren Studd still back there too. Yeah, I've been on this because it's something that's imperative. It's a key component to community building here in this city. I feel like there's been a gap since shortly after I graduated from high school, and we need to make it right. A promise was made, and a promise needs to be kept. And this is one of the reasons why I invited you all here, because I'm needing you all to come down to the district and let the board at large know that you stand with me in regard to us needing to build a high school. So let me walk you all through why I feel this way. So back, as I recall, in the early 2000s, the district had put on the construction calendar the construction of school MMM, Mary, Mary, Mary. It was going to be built right where the old Suncoast High School is. And in fact, we displaced quite a few families just to the west of that current site for the purpose of expanding and building a larger campus that could accommodate a larger population. The current school site really only can hold about 1,000 students. And even 20 years ago, this is a school full of young families and a lot of young children. So we knew we needed a larger school site. Now, because, as I would like to say, political headwinds, the so-called political leaders infighting and not speaking with one voice, it kind of died on the vine. Coupled with the fact that if you talk to persons in the district at the higher level of the district, where I guess I am, they will tell you that there was inflationary costs, and it just wasn't a good time. The money was no longer there. The money dried up. So in 2011, the last few pennies that were initially earmarked for the construction of this new school, MMM, got diverted somewhere. I'll just say it got diverted somewhere south to help build new schools down in Boynton, West Boca, and West Boynton. Areas which I might add historically are much more engaged than this one. They come to board meetings. They inundate us with emails. They inundate us with public comments. And a lot of times that ultimately does kind of sway how the board at large votes. And so I'm telling you all, we should do that same thing. If we want this school, you should do the same thing as tried and true. The squeaking wheel does get the oil. So I'm asking y'all to squeak a little bit in these next couple of weeks, okay? Having said all that, 2011, the last couple of dollars go south and west. I did a public record request because I don't like to, teachers in law, don't just rely on your feelings. Try to find some hard data that cannot be challenged necessarily. So I went to the horse's mouth and asked the horse, how many projects have you built since 2011? And the horse told me, we built over 25. In fact, we just finished our first new comprehensive high school, Dr. Joaquin Garcia, to the tune of $106 million. And that school is going to be a great school. I'm sure you all have heard about the boundaries and, kind of got politicized, but that school is going to do exceedingly well out in that area. But we spent over $100 to construct that school, and it's going to open in August. Now, again, another reason that it really pains me that we're here asking for your support to build a high school is that this school ranks number 9 in the county in terms of when you say how many high school age students who attend public schools live in your city borders. Riviera Beach ranks 9th. But we're the only one of those schools in the top 11 cities that doesn't have a school inside of its borders that its residents are zoned to go to. Now, we do have 3 high schools. So we have Suncoast, that's my alma mater, but Suncoast is all choice. So you have to get my permission to go to Suncoast. You understand what I'm saying? You pay taxes in this city, but you have to get my permission to use your own stuff. I don't know about y'all, but I don't live my life like that. If I bought it, I'm gonna use it how I want to use it and when I want to use it. Do y'all follow what I'm saying? We have Inlet Grove. Inlet Grove is a charter school. And also charter school that all charter schools, you still need to get their permission to go to that school. And I'm going to get into some other things regarding these 3 schools in a second. Riviera Beach Prep is at the site where Inlet Grove used to be off of Garden Road. Do you all know where Garden Road is? Just to the east of I-95, kind of behind the Wawa. That's where Riviera Beach Prep and North Tech are now. That's an alternative educational school. Clearly, we're not saying that the 1,600 plus students who attend public high schools in Riviera Beach should be at an alt ed school. Clearly, we think more of our children than that, right? And having said all that, Mr. Simmons does an exceptional job at Riviera Beach Prep. Again, it's one of my schools, and I would encourage you all to go there and visit that school, because some of the things that have been floated out in this community are straight erroneous. I would say lies, but again, I said I want to be positive tonight. But I had good information there. Certain times that things have been said about Riviera Beach, and it's just not true. Riviera Beach Prep, and it's just not true. Those children have had different struggles, and some of them are close to adults now, that many of us would have just curled up in a corner and just quit, gave up on life. And they surge on, and Mr. Simmons and his team are there to help those children get to a higher level. So I applaud him and his team over there, but nevertheless, the majority of our children are not going to walk that path, and we shouldn't expect them to walk that path. So Riviera Beach Prep, which is a school of less than 150 students, is clearly not the magical elixir for us getting a Riviera Beach High School. Now that I've set the table as far as the fact we don't have a community high school, let me tell you how many of the students at each school live in Riviera Beach. Suncoast, my alma mater. I ain't gonna ask Tina to pay this. Does anybody know how many students at Suncoast live in Riviera Beach? You said 5%? 7.7%. How many students at Inlet Grove live in Riviera Beach? Anybody know? 14%. And how many students at Riviera Beach Prep live in Riviera Beach? Does anyone know? Roughly 32%. And that school, again, is less than 150 people. So what is that really saying if all 100% live in Riviera Beach, right? We have over 1,600 high school age students who attend schools across the county. The majority of them actually go to Gardens, Palm Beach Gardens specifically, Dwyer, and they also go to Palm Beach Lakes. 1,600 plus students in the area, and the great majority of them go to those three schools. And their experiences definitely in Gardens, and I've said this on the record, so I'm not sharing anything with y'all that you've not heard if you watched the board meeting. They've not been welcome there since the 70s. They've not been welcome there since the 70s. And I'm of the position that you shouldn't be forcing children to continue to go to a place where, one, they ain't want it, and two, frankly, they really don't want to go. Particularly because now we're back into my wheelhouse. The Supreme Court has already said that forced busing is a no-no. We don't do that anymore. So somebody has to please make this clear to me while we still do it when it relates to Riviera Beach residents. Councilman Lawson, good evening. It's time to break that cycle. That's no bueno. We can't do that anymore. So I'm not advocating for segregation. That's systemic, but I believe students should be able to go to schools in the neighborhood that they live in. If it's good enough for you to live, sleep, and play, it should be good enough for you to matriculate. That's all I'm saying. And I would also challenge anybody who thinks I'm saying something negative to check their own psyche, because whoever said that Riviera Beach is synonymous with less than, poor, crime-ridden, and things of that nature. If it is that way, it's frankly because we allow it to be. So I would, moving forward from today, that we have a higher perception of ourselves and not abide by that, because we should be at the front, as I see it, and we should not continue to be bringing up the rear. Because I'm definitely not a person that like to be in behind. I like to be out the front, and I know a lot of y'all are geniuses in your own right, alpha-minded people. I say we need to come together and do it for the children, and do it for ourselves. We deserve it, our children deserve it, and our children's children deserve it too. Every time I get around pastors, I feel like I start preaching. I have no desire to be a preacher, but Pastor Drake, you did it to me. So again, as you can see by the slide there, less than 18% of our high school age students who attend public schools in Riviera Beach actually go to school in Riviera Beach. And I hope that they slid this other one. Thank you. Here we go. So again, I'm not saying it. The district is saying it. So I'm going to let that one sit up there for y'all and let it marinate in your mind for a while. We can't abide by this anymore. Enough is enough. When I first brought this to the board's attention in December, there was a spirit of shock. I didn't realize that there was no high school in Riviera Beach. Well, that's the first problem. I'm elected by people who vote in District 7. but I'm the board member for the entire Palm Beach County, the 10th largest school district, over $5 billion budget. So I don't just get to speak up for children in Riviera Beach. Children move all the time. So the child that's here today could very well be in Wellington or Delray tomorrow. So I have to come up with proactive policies that are for the benefit of all our children. Having said all that, well, not having said all that, because of that, you need to come see about Riviera Beach from time to time. It shouldn't be a surprise that I said this to you. It's been like this time immemorial at this point. Wellington, 89%. 89% of the children who attend public school in Wellington go to school in Wellington. West Palm Beach, 74.5%. Boca, you can forget about it. We're keeping all our babies at home in Boca. You see that? Jupiter, 71.9%. Green Acres is sort of like the redhead stepchild, and if they're the redhead stepchild, we're the orphan. But they kind of get bussed around pretty well out there. And then if you've been watching it with the Garcia High School issue, you've heard a lot of residents from Green Acres speak to that. But be that as it may, they're still at 47.9%. I would dance a jig if we had 47.9% of our children going to school presently in Riviera Beach. And I would dare say the last time we even had 47.9% of our children in Riviera Beach going to school in Riviera Beach would have been sometime in the 80s. Because even when I was at Suncoast, it was already kind of a choice program. I'm from West Palm Beach. I attended Bear Lakes, Lincoln Elementary, Military Trail Elementary, and I got in the IB program. That's the only reason I got into Suncoast. I thought I wanted to be a basketball player, so I had to go to academic route to get into Suncoast. But I'm a Palm Beach Lakes zone person in that regard. Delray, 75.2. Royal Palm, 56. Boynton, 55. Lake Worth Beach, another city that holds onto their children like they really care about them, 91.9%. When we were talking about moving children on the south end of Lake Worth to Boynton High School, they almost turn the tables upside down at the last board meeting, saying that's not happening. Keep our children in Lake Worth Beach. So you cannot tell me that a child in Lake Worth or Wellington or Boca has any more intrinsic value than a child here in Riviera Beach. So I think it's time to stand up and never stand down again until they build the school in Riviera Beach. Palm Beach Gardens, 75%. The numbers don't lie. And for y'all who know me, you know I'm kind of a straight shooter. I don't have time to fluff it up too much. I'm going to put it out there for you. The truth is the truth. And I think it's going to activate you to do certain things. So these are the two sites that I've presented to the board for construction of the new high school. This is the old Suncoast High School, currently occupied by Inlet Grove. So that greenfield area is roughly 30 acres, but directly to the west, this is where the people were displaced. That whole block, almost that entire block, they were displaced for the purpose of us getting an extra 8 acres so we could put a larger school here in the city. And it's pretty much been a green space for the last 20 plus years. If we build a high school here in Riviera Beach, I've spoken with Joe Sanchez, Superintendent Mike Burke, and the other board members. We need to build a school that's roughly that will accommodate a population of roughly 1,700 students. Why? Because that's about the number of students that we have here in Riviera Beach that are being forced bused to Gardens, Dwyer, and Palm Beach Lakes. And I'm accounting for the fact that the city continues to grow in population. So that's not true. We don't actually have 1,700 that are presently in those schools, but in the next 5 to 10 years, that's not an unreasonable estimation as far as the number of children that would be going to those schools. We need to bring them home and keep them home. The second site is Lincoln Elementary. So to be clear, if the Riviera Beach High School had to be built here, I would be fine. City Manager Jonathan Evans is here. And I know that he and I have had dialogue for several years now, going back to my first campaign, where he mentioned the fact that the city is interested in entering into what's called an interlocal agreement with the district to help renovate the athletic fields. So in my mind, whether it's Inlet Grove or the Riviera Beach Community High School, this is a viable space because to the right, hopefully you all can see that, that's where Lincoln Elementary currently sits. That green area is the Callaway recreational area. I spoke with Mr. Richard Blankenship earlier today, and that space is roughly 15 acres in diameter. Why is that relevant? Because where the old Suncoast is, where Inlet Grove currently occupies, it's 30 acres plus the other 8, so it's 38 acres. Inlet Grove is roughly Ms. Banks, what is it, 800 students at your school? So it's a substantially smaller school than a comprehensive high school for Riviera Beach would be. So smaller school population means, in my mind, that they should be on a smaller site. Now, of course, we're going to equip Inlet Grove with everything they need to be successful. Since Inlet Grove has been there, Dr. Banks and her team have done a good job to bring additional extracurricular activities to the students. So we have a basketball team. I understand, based on speaking to Councilperson Lawson, the football team did very well this year. So they have additional activities that we need to make sure they support. This is why I think this site would be optimum for Inlet Grove while still affording the residents of Riviera Beach a site that is supportive and is appropriate, if you will, for the residents. Again, a 1,700 student high school would be a better fit on this 38-acre footprint versus the 17 plus 15 for the athletic fields there. Now, if you believe that this is something that needs to get done, I need you all to do a couple of things. One, I need you to take down my email address, not just for this issue, but for any issues that relate to the school system. Don't ask me if I can get your child into a school. That's not my game. I haven't seen how that's really benefited us over the years, and I've told all the principals here, you will not see me making a call saying, I need you to get Pastor Drayton's son into your school. If he gets in, he gets in. I'm here for policies, because it's policies that are really going to help us get to the next level. But if you have issues that are happening at the school, whether it be bullying, anything that you think about like that, give me a call. I will connect with the appropriate parties on the administrative side to figure out how we can get that issue resolved. Is that all right with y'all? But in regard to this issue that I'm asking you all for your help on, I need you to send emails either to my address, edwin.ferguson@palmbeachschools.org, or to boardoffice@palmbeachschools.org. And ideally, say this: I live in Riviera Beach. My name is William Wiley. I have a child or children who attend public schools here in Palm Beach County, or who are in childcare age right now who will one day attend schools in Palm Beach County. I'd love for those children or my child to attend the Riviera Beach High School. That's all I need you to say in that email. It would be even more impactful if you came to our board meeting. We have a workshop tomorrow that starts at 2. I think we'll get to this agenda item around 3-ish, I think. Don't hold me to it, y'all. Either tomorrow or come to the board meeting on the 29th and say, my name is Carl Muhammad. I live in Riviera Beach. My children attend school 1, 2, and 3. I'd love to have those children attend a high school in Riviera Beach. Because again, it was posed to me by no less than 3 board members. Well, won't that be a primarily black high school? And my response was, I didn't see as bad an eye when we look at all the schools in Wellington that are overwhelmingly Caucasian. So let's not make it about race. It shouldn't be about that in that regard. And then I also say, then they say, well, but if we build a school, will the children come? Again, there's an implicit bias there when somebody says that, because you equate everything with Riviera Beach with being less than. Clearly, this is going to be a properly resourced school on my watch. You don't have to worry about that. Those of y'all who know me know I can be dogged about things, and I'm telling you now I'm going to be dogged about this. The school will have every bell and whistle that any other school in Palm Beach County even thinks it wants to have. But I do need your support to make sure that it always stays that way. We need to put systems in place so that when I move out of the way, that school is still ready to excel. We need a strong-minded principal that's not afraid to get out into the community and speak about the positive things in Riviera Beach High School. I believe at least one person here has already pitched to me today. This person said, hey, I am Riviera Beach. You should keep me in mind. This person and a few other people are definitely people that I would want the superintendent to strongly consider for being a principal moving forward. But we got to first get there by getting this school out of the ground. And that does not happen without your support. It does not happen unless the people that are watching this on TV now or whenever it airs, hopefully today, and hopefully keeps airing throughout the month of March. Let's make March Riviera Beach High School Month in Riviera Beach. We need as many of the residents here in the city speaking out in support of this, because if you do it, I promise you that we'll get this done. If you do it, I promise you we'll get this done. And so that's it with my presentation. And of course, that's my phone number, 561-434-7481. Call me for anything related to schools, any issues that you or your family or your community has seen. Bring it to my attention. Let's work on it together. Again, Councilwoman Lanier, I want to thank you for allowing me to speak. I know I went over the 30 minutes, but I was feeling the vibe in the room. So I took a little liberty.
That's fine.
Mea culpa. But
That's
thank you
fine.
again for inviting me.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
I also want to, is Miss Roseanne Brown here? Yes, I wanted her to come up because one of the, I'm Councilwoman Lanier. One of the reasons why I spoke with Mr. Ferguson about this forum was because Back in 2014, the city of Riviera Beach had a education advisory committee. And I wanted to kind of resurrect that committee to be able to have some input into how our schools are in Riviera Beach. But I wanted Ms. Brown to give a little background about the advisory committee so that we can understand how we're going to move forward. And this information and dialogue tonight will help us, give us the impetus to resurrect this committee. Ms. Brown? And then we'll have questions.
I'm not gonna get this right. All right. Okay, I hold it. Good evening. It's so good to see so many folk out here to talk about how our kids are going to be doing better because we're going to help them do better in Riviera Beach. And many of you know that for a long time, I had the privilege of being the spokesperson for the city of Riviera Beach. And that's what I am here this evening. I am a spokesperson because the Riviera Beach Education Advisory Committee was the brainchild of former Councilwoman Cynthia Beckton. Back in the late 80s, early 90s, she was still teaching and was appalled at the way that our children were being treated and decided that if we wanted it to be better, then it was up to us to get out and fight for it. So she organized the Riviera Beach Education Advisory Committee. I tried to get her to come up and talk about it, but she said, nope, you gonna do it. She's been ordering me around for a long time, and tonight is no different. But let me tell you about the Riviera Beach Education Advisory Committee. It was a group of people who were determined to make better for our children. You've heard how Riviera Beach has been dumped on for many years as it relates to education. We had kids from Riviera Beach being bused to over 20 different schools outside of the city. How many were getting bused in? None. But our kids were being used to desegregate kids all over the county. Many of you remember that. So the solution to that was, talk to the board members, try to get them to have some empathy and do better. They didn't. So the other solution, get out and fight for your children yourself. So that's why the Riviera Beach Education Advisory Committee came into being. We fought for things like, for example, when Suncoast High School came about and our kids got bused to Palm Beach Gardens High School, where they didn't want them and we didn't want them to be. And then kids that lived across the street from Suncoast couldn't go to Suncoast. They had to go to Palm Beach Gardens. Well, we partnered. The Riviera Beach Education Advisory Committee said, we're going to fight this. We partnered with the SAC committee from Palm Beach Gardens High School. The chair of the SAC committee at that time was the lady you all might recognize her name, Karen Marcus. She was the chair of the SAC committee. And we found out how many kids lived just right around the corner almost from Suncoast and couldn't get into Suncoast, even though they qualified to be in the Suncoast. But they had to be at Palm Beach Gardens. And we made it clear to the SAC committee, we're partnering with you, but we need you to understand we have different reasons. You're partnering with us because you don't want our children at Palm Beach Gardens High School. Well, we're partnering with you because we don't want our children at Palm Beach Gardens High School. The outcome of that, just a few folk coming together, Cynthia Beckton, Herman McCrae, Rory Leonard, just some of the names that come to mind right away. We were able to convince the school district to create, I forget what it was called then. I think it's called preference now. They still have preference sacks. But we were able to convince them to make a special provision that if you lived in the sack that was formerly boundary to attend Suncoast High School, you could go to Suncoast High School as a magnet school. That's part of the work that the Riviera Beach Education Advisory Committee brought about. We found many kids, one of the greatest predictors of success in school is parental involvement. But we found that a lot of our parents wouldn't go to the school and be involved because they felt like they didn't know the system, and they were embarrassed, and they were made to look ignorant, okay? They were made to look that way. So we said, okay, Riviera Beach Education Advisory Committee, you got all kinds of folk on here that's got all kinds of knowledge about the system. So form some advocacy. So not only did we talk to parents about increasing parental involvement, being involved, go to the school, see what's going on, find out why your child is crying and doesn't want to go to school every day. So we talked to parents about how to advocate for their kids. And then when they still were reluctant because they didn't feel adequate to do it, we assigned representatives from the Riviera Beach Education Advisory Committee that went with parents to advocate for their children. And results came about as a result of that advocacy. We see now where it is becoming, according to the governor, I think it's going to be illegal to demand equity as it relates to our children, because there is no racism. You know, it doesn't exist. So there's no reason to make sure that you make sure kids are treated equally, because they're already being treated that way according to our governor, right? And it's going to be a criminal thing if you want to demand that. Well, I guess, and it's going to be illegal to teach Black history. You know, the Bible tells you in the book of Hosea, people are destroyed. He said, my people are destroyed because of a lack of knowledge. So Riviera Beach Education Advisory Committee needs to come back into being, because y'all know what we're going to have to do? We're going to have to be like the Jewish people. They won't teach the Jewish history the way it should be taught in the school. So what do they have? They have Hebrew schools. They teaching themselves. So who's going to have to teach our kids? Are they going to teach them in school? Are they going to be destroyed because they have no knowledge of their history? If we don't do it, who's going to do it? Who's going to do it? The Education Advisory Committee can do it. Education Advisory Committee was a collaborative effort. It was community, school, clergy, and city working together. We had a situation where there was a big fight at Palm Beach Gardens High School. Guess who they blamed everything on? The kids from Riviera Beach. They were prepared. You may remember, Pastor Duke, they were prepared to suspend or expel the kids from Riviera Beach who were involved in the altercation at the school. Riviera Beach Education Committee and the collaboration said, no, that will not happen. It was a holiday. We scheduled a meeting at Riviera Beach City Hall. The administration folk from Palm Beach Gardens High School had to come. We had the police department involved, our police department and Palm Beach Gardens Police Department and the school district's police department. The bottom, and parents. The parents had to come. We went out and made sure those parents of those kids came. As a result of that, none of our kids were expelled or suspended because we were able to work it out, and the clergy was there. And we were able to work it out in collaboration so that our kids did not get expelled. But had it not been for the efforts of the Education Advisory Committee, they would have been, that was already in the works. We brought a stop to it. So I'm going to ask, is there anyone in this room who is interested in being an advocate for our kids? Okay. Are you willing to work in collaboration so that we can save our children? One board member has one vote. This board member cannot bring about anything with one vote. But it's amazing, he probably already knows if there's a bunch of black people that show up at the board meeting, and don't let them all wear the same color and sit together. You have folk asking you, who are they? Why they here? They shaking in their boots already. Oh, well. Listen, the only way we are going to save our children is pooling our efforts. You may say, well, I'm interested. I'm going to do everything that I can. Y'all, there's strength in numbers. And there's something about a group of us when we show up in the same color shirt, we get the attention already. And it's like, what they doing? Why they here? We here for our children. So I am hoping, I'm thankful for the phone call that we got from Councilwoman Lanier, who said, we have to make a difference. We have to work together in this city. And I heard about the work that the Education Advisory Committee did in the past. How can I get them back together? So thank you for your interest. Thank you for this first step. I hope there's a sign-in sheet, okay? And with contact information, right? Okay. And hopefully each of you will go and tell somebody else about the Education Advisory Committee. The reason it is a committee and not a board is because if you want to be involved, you can be involved without waiting for a council member to appoint you. It is your desire to make a difference for our children and save our children and help our children understand they have history and that they will not be destroyed because of a lack of knowledge. And a couple other things I just want to mention that the Riviera Beach Education Advisory Committee did. Started one of the best programs that this city has ever put forward, the Education Scholarship Program. This city, your city, Riviera Beach, has given close to $750,000 to college students. No other city in this county can say they did that. It started in 1998. The Education Advisory Committee started that. The city council has accepted it and has supported it from day one, and they still support it. We're right now about to release applications for the 25th year. And this time, we're trying to do something a little bit different to put even more connection between the students who get the scholarships and the city. Students who accept the scholarship now are also committing that they will provide at least 20 hours of community service to the city of Riviera Beach. And hopefully some of that is going to lead to some new employees for you, sir, in the city of Riviera Beach, because we want to encourage our kids not only to take advantage of the scholarship program, but come home and let the city reap the rewards of what they've gone out and become. The other thing that the Education Advisory Committee did was create the middle school academic summer camp. I don't know, some of you may have remembered that. It was at J.F. Kennedy Middle School. That was another one of the best programs the city had ever done. At that point, many kids were missing out on going to high school because they were missing half a credit or just one credit. And so they had to spend another year at middle school. You know, another year in middle school as opposed to going to high school the way they're supposed to can mean a kid gets discouraged and you lose them. You lose them. The academic summer camp for middle school students provided the bridge between middle school and high school. And those kids that were on the cusp were able to avoid that and will be able to make up that credit and go ahead and get into high school. There was no summer school for middle school at the time. That's another good work from the Riviera Beach Education Advisory Committee. Thank you for bringing it back, ma'am. And I promise you, we will do everything that we can to help you get these, I'm old now, but to help these young folk get involved and get that committee back vibrant and working for our kids, clergy, Pastor Drayton. We got enough churches in this community that we can, if the Jewish people can have Hebrew school, we can have Black History School in our communities. They don't teach it the way they need to teach it anyway. We can teach it the right way. So let's get this going. I'm done. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Ms. Brown, for that eloquent illustration of the Education Committee. I'd like to recognize our city manager, Mr. Jonathan Evans. We have Council Member Miller Anderson, Councilman Lawson, former Councilwoman Ms. Hubbard, and all elected officials, past, present, and we thank you guys so much for coming out. But we want to get started with the questions. You've seen the presentation. You know what's happening in Riviera Beach schools. We know we need to do something. So I want to be able to have a dialogue. So who wants to throw out the first question? I'll throw it out. How do we get parents more involved in the schools in Riviera Beach? How do we do that? Now I want to hear from some teachers. Mr. Wiley, yeah, I want you to go first. I want you to tell me how do you see this happening? Yeah, come on.
How you doing, sir? Good. I think some of the biggest issues we have, especially I'm at Roosevelt Middle School now, and I taught at the high school level, and the things that they get the people participating with their kids. I made a suggestion to my principal that maybe prior to a basketball game, usually when parents come see their kids play and participate in extracurricular activities after school, usually when they come in to to spend more time with their children, it'd be good if we had we have an open house. I think our open house is too small and too condensed to where we're running parents back and forth every 3, 4, 5 minutes, to where you can't get the time to talk to the students, you can't get the time to talk to the parents, or since it's so short, the parents are not even coming out to the event at all anymore. I might have had, out of my 120 kids, I probably had about maybe 14 parents show up the whole night. All right, and that's kind of disappointing. But when the basketball game comes around, everyone shows up. So what we want is that maybe we can put something together to where you get free basketball tickets or something like that to be able to come out and be able to see your kids and see what they do, be able to come into the school, watch us educate your kids, see what our downfalls are, see what our strengths are, and be able to work with us to be able to help out these kids become successful. That's one of the main reasons why I've been teaching. This is my 11th year teaching now, And for people who know me, who knew my mom taught at Suncoast for 33 years. And one of the great things that she has done in her career was being able to reach back, grab the kids, and then pull the kids up. And then hopefully 10, 15 years later, that kid remembers all the teachers in that community and want to come back and participate in our community. And that's the main thing I think we need to do. But for us to be able to get these kids, to get the parents to be able to come in and spend time with their kids, watch what they're doing, learn what their the strengths are, learn what their weaknesses are, is again, we got to have some kind of entertainment or some kind of excitement to get them more involved in what their kids are doing. Because most of the kids even tell the teachers, my mom, dad, they don't care too much. They'll say it. And I said, well, okay, what are we going to do about this then? Well, give me a program. So I give them an IXL program that they can work on, or give them a Google Classroom assignment they can work on, or the brain pop that we spoke here, or we do something fun in the class. Other than that, the kid said, well, there's nothing else for us to do. And that's kind of sad. So again, I know as parents, we work hard. We want the best for our kids. We want the best for our children. But if we want the best for them, we have to participate more with them in their lives. Because at that point, we brought our kids here. We need to go ahead and make sure that we walk them through this path called life.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Miss, don't tell me. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Got to. Miss Banks. Miss Banks. Yes, of course, you can talk about how we are going to get parents more involved with the schools.
Okay, I can talk from Inlet Grove Community High School point of view. Really, I don't have a problem with parents coming to my school. And I think the reason is when I started the alternative suspension program, instead of suspending our kids, because when you suspend the kids, what do? Go home, watch TV on the phone or whatever, or in the street and get in more trouble. So what I did with Judge Baker, we started this alternative suspension program where all the kids, if they get in trouble, their parents have to go to court with them. And they have assignment when they come back, such as they have a math problem where how many kids were in the court. And the parents would beg the judge to try to get the other schools to do the same thing. But what I've learned is don't wait till the children get in trouble to communicate home with the good things they're doing and bring the parents in to see those things. I always tell my staff, first of all, you treat the kids with respect. No student come to my school unless I talk with them and the parents. And I tell them what our procedures are. We tell them there are 3 things that I expect. First is safety. The next is finish high school. The third one is going to college or the service. Those 3 things we can provide, which we do. We give out scholarships. I've given out since I've been in Inlet Grove, not only Inlet Grove, but to the district school. I've given out I would say about $600,000. We are a high performing school, but the other thing I do, anything that is happening in the community or in Palm Beach County and even out of Palm Beach County, we send students along with the parents. So therefore, that's the draw to get the parents into our school because they want to hear some good things. Now, all parents, like I tell the students, your parent might be an alcoholic, drug, whatever, but that's still your parents. But in spite of all that, the parent want to see their kids be successful. And so I don't have a problem so far with parents coming, but give these kids some exposure. And I think that's what is lacking in some of the schools. They wait until the kids get in trouble or they suspend, but we don't do that. So I have to give kudos to my staff. I give kudos to our students. I give kudos to our parents because I don't have that problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman
You had,
Lanier.
yes.
really quickly.
Yes.
It's been my experience over these 18 years here. One, we shouldn't necessarily expect every parent to automatically start coming to SAC or PTA. Most of the schools here will tell you that they probably have a faithful maybe 10 or 15 parents that come to SAC. My suggestion to the principals has been, well, let's set the goal for next year. If it's 15 this year, let's set it for 17 for next year, 17 committed people, and then 19. Well, how do you do that? You do that by giving the parents what they want, which is independence. Most parents, even if you say they're alcoholic or drug addicts, or some people might say lazy, they ultimately want to be independent. So bringing in private companies and things of that nature, persons who know um, how to teach financial literacy in a way that's easily digestible. You're giving them extra value that would entice them to want to come. They're not going to constantly come for spaghetti dinners and hot dogs, or even to see Johnny shoot basketball. All that has limited value in the grand scope of things. But in my experience, the parents, just like all of us, they want to be independent. So I think it's imperative on us to make sure that we start using those schools as resource centers in some ways for the parents. And all of them are not going to come. And I'll just say this. My father used to tell me this back in the day. He said, some will, some won't. So what? Somebody's waiting. So educators, be encouraged. Know that you're doing what you need to do, and that they will come in time. And that would be my advice to how we increase parental engagement. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Now let's move on to another question. We are talking about the Riviera Beach High School. I want to hear your thoughts on this school. I want to hear your thoughts on, should we have it? Should we not have it? How are we going to do it? How are we going to move forward? So who wants to ask a question in regards to that? Yes, sir. Come on.
Good evening. My name is Malcolm Summons. I'm a legislative aide for Senator Bobby Powell, Jr. I'm here this week outside, not in Tallahassee this week, thank God. But I wanted to come here and hear what's going on with the schools. My question pretty much is for tomorrow. You mentioned about where we should all be. Is it what time and date and location is that?
School board chambers are at 3300 Forest Hill Boulevard, so just west of the I-95 interchange. I'm not sure the exact time that the workshop on the school will be. I believe it's going to be somewhere in that 3 o'clock hour. If you all email me, I will be sure to email you the actual time. I'll get with staff first thing tomorrow morning, so that you're not just there, for other things that you may not necessarily want to be engaged in. But if you email me, and my email address is right here, if I can get it back. That's my email address. Just email me or call me, and I'll give you the actual time that we're going to discuss this issue tomorrow. Thank you.
Very good. Yes, Ms. Hubbard.
Thank you. I definitely feel that we need a high school in Riviera Beach, because that would solve a lot of our problems. If we had a high school in Riviera Beach, the parents would be more likely to come and be willing to attend and participate in the activities that are going on. To that end, for parents to participate, I think, and I know we moved to the second question, but I think orientation should be mandatory when your child register, because everybody should know how start off on an even foot. And when that ties them directly to know that they have to be engaged in their children's life when orientation is mandatory. I think that's one way to get them to participate. And teachers need to have 3 ways to contact the parents when the kids start to slip, and let the parents know that it's mandatory that they come to these meetings, not wait till there's no point of no return and the teacher has no other choice but to fail the student. So I think if we start out with a mandatory orientation and we start out with some caveats and put them in place, it should be mandatory. That's your child, and you should take an active role in it. And of course, I believe we need that school here in the city of Riviera Beach. We could have, both the Inlet Grove with what they're doing, is definitely a plus for our community. And to have a school in our community, we deserved it a long time ago. And yes, it was promised forever. And I think, you know, what happened with Suncoast has happened. It was a bad thing, but right now we shouldn't let it go any further without getting our new school. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Yes. Yeah, come on. How are you doing?
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Beatrice Johnson. I am a native of Riviera Beach, went to Lincoln Elementary, West Riviera Elementary. I can go all the way back to Deacon Holmes. I am a Riviera Beach homegrown. Currently, I'm with the School District of Palm Beach County. This is my 35th year. I'll be retiring in 2 years. So currently, I am a high school counselor at Atlantic Community High School. I have been a school counselor for 23 years, and before that, I was 15 years as an educator teaching grades pre-K through fifth. So I've been at every level. So now that I'm a school counselor at the high school level, I decided to move south because I wanted to do something different because I was John F. Kennedy, I was at Palm Beach Lakes, I was at H.L. Watkins Middle as well. So I see the growth. That is a connection. I went to school with their grandparents. I knew them, so I moved south to get a little away for that for a little bit. But there is my concern about the Riviera Beach High School. There is a need for vocational programs because right now our students, I have I guess about 400 kids in my alphabet, and most of our students are not going away to college. They are not. And I tell them all the time, it's okay. We need HVAC, we need carpet, we need carpenters, we need lawn people, we need all those things, plumbers. So I would like to see a vocational track with the cosmetology, with the barber, because these locations charge the students so much to enter their programs and they can't afford it. So therefore, I would love to see, and I would come out of retirement to see this happen, to do
What's your name?
vocational track.
You coming out of retirement then?
No, I will come
We'll
out.
put it on the record, so we gonna call you.
I will
sometime
come
next
out
year.
just to help. So therefore, I would love to see vocational cosmetology, barbering, HVAC, all those things inside of the new high school.
You know, sis, I actually and I
Thank you.
received that. We have North
you.
Tech that does some of those things already, but I mean, we got to get the school first. And again, I want to reiterate, we need y'all to come out. We as a city and as District 7 need you all to come out full throw, wearing purple and gold. Ms. Brown said we all got to wear the same color, so we all got to wear purple and gold. Yeah, shit, y'all will get that later. I think with this $1 billion boat building business that's within walking distance here, that's the vocation that I would be interested in bringing to the school, teaching these young men and women how to help work on those boats. Because I've heard that the starting salaries are higher than many teachers who've been working for a very long time. So I that's a low hanging fruit and it's an easy sell. And that school would be uniquely positioned to take advantage of that for the betterment of the community. And I think there should be an entrepreneurship bent to it as well. But most definitely, I think the boat building, the marine industry, we're a marine city. I think our school should reflect that as well.
So
Yes.
Okay, I have a question. Let me stand up. My question is, there is a huge teacher shortage, not just here in Palm Beach County, but across the state. So you're proposing for a new high school. How are you proposing to address that teacher shortage? Substitute teachers don't want to come into the school. So if we build a new high school, how is that going to be suffice or eradicated? Lastly, if there is a lack, and I understand you address the get them young, but our trouble is high school, they are still struggling to graduate. How is this new high school in our community addressing our babies? How will that subside and get us to the point of college readiness or even cosmet vocational ready? That's the challenge because we're building new. What is the attack on the problem that's already existing?
Thank you. Go ahead.
Per Mr. Sanchez, and if you all go to the workshop, you'll hear him say this. If the school is approved soon, it wouldn't open until 2028. So there would be a gap in that regard, sis. But as far as what you're saying, this school would have no effect over those young men and women who are in 9th, 10th, 11th, or 12th grade. They would all have graduated and cycled out by the time this school is open. But as far as how to catch them up to speed, that's what we've said before. Right. So we can't go back in time. I get that. So the solution is to engage. You have to engage with them more. And it can't just be limited to what's happening or what you do in school. Because I know you're a teacher as well. I believe you're still a teacher. Yes. Yes. You're a teacher. Yeah. So it can't just be those 6.5 hours that they're with you. We as a community have to avail ourselves as well. We can't just put it on the parents to get this done. Some parents don't know what they don't know. Some parents have a certain degree of trauma and they're just not engaged like that. But again, they're still our children, whether they were born from us, they're still in our city. We have to take the bulls by the horn. That's an oversimplified way of saying it, but it really does boil down to it. Any book that I've read, historically, it's the army of us that actually is going to make this thing change. So we have to stop pointing and complaining and stating the obvious issue. Everybody can see what the issue is, but who's really committed to the solution? So to that point, actionable items, I know we said as far as high school goes, if it gets off the ground, I'm gonna speak it to existence. When it gets off the ground, there needs to be a vocational bent to it. Now I'm shooting for the stars. Vocation for me is working on a $1 billion boat, like Dr. Banks said, making a fair amount of money and then knowing how to use that money. No more of this hand to mouth. We can't have that. You all have the slides again. Take that QR, scan that QR code. You'll have access to everything that I've discussed so far. Actionable items. I think I've answered your question as best I could at this time. Even if you don't necessarily agree with it, but I don't think you necessarily disagree with it, but you think there's more to be done, then we need to work together. See, that's where I am. So I'm the board member. So I help set policy. But I can tell you right now, I don't know as much as y'all collectively. So any room I come in, I come with a sense of humility as far as that goes. I'm willing to hear. And if anybody's truly serious about getting solutions, I'm your huckleberry. But if it's just we're going to complain about things, I don't really have the bandwidth so much for that either. Because again, it's easy to issue spot, but I'm about the solution. So if you all are here in that space of humility as well, you'll find that I'm probably the easiest board member that you might ever see in this seat, because I truly have a vision for this city, this county, this state, and this country. And it starts with us here in Riviera Beach. But I appreciate the question, sis.
Thank you, sir. We're going to take 3 more questions. I'm going to start with this gentleman here. I'll get Mr. Littles, and then I'll take 1 more.
It took a lot for me not to say nothing. My name is Aldrick Marshall, and I'm a product of Riviera Beach, West Palm Beach. Dr. Banks know me. Many of you know me in here. I graduated with a 2.0 GPA, and I ended up getting 2 masters and working on my 2nd doctorate right now. What gave me a lot of encouragement and what gives a lot of kids encouragement is hope. Our kids today, if you spend any time with them, we're trying to get them into our world when we need to get into their world. Hope goes a long ways for someone in high school, in middle school, and they can't pass we call it, every year they're changing the test to something else now. They're not calling it FCAT now, they call it something else. Now they call it something else. It still comes with, I don't have to kill you to kill you. Our kids, when you go to work, when you go to work, you expect to get paid. You're leaving there every 2 weeks or every week with a paycheck. So you're saying, I'm working and I'm getting paid. Our kids are pushed to go to school every single day, knowing that they're not going to pass the FCAT. They have no reason to go to school. So why are they going to school if they're not passing the FCAT? They're not getting paid to move to the next level. So we're forcing them out of the door in the morning, go to school, get an education. Well, I'm not going to graduate, so why am I going to school? So now I'm going to go and mess with your kids, because I'm not going to graduate, but you're making me go to a job and I'm not getting paid. I propose we start at Tallahassee and push back all of this FCAT, all these testings. We can still have a test, but what the idea is, if you have a test and they pass the test, let's call it FCAT. They pass the FCAT test. Let's let that test be a benchmark, and not only a benchmark, it can be used like the SAT or the ACT. So if you pass that FCAT test, you can get into a 4-year college, or if you don't pass the FCAT, you do get a diploma without the endorsement of that FCAT, so they can go to be a barber. They can go to a trade school, because you can't even go to a trade school without a diploma. So we're taking away their livelihood and they'd have no hope. So why should they go and say, I'm going to go to school every day, every week? I have no hope. So we have to look at it from that perspective, and we got to get into their world and not them being in our world. We have to look at and talk to them and find out what's going on, because half of them, pretty much all of them, will tell you, why am I going to school? I'm not going to graduate.
Well, this is the first time I think you've ever said something, Audrey, that I don't necessarily agree with. It's not my world or their world or your world. It's the world. And our children have to understand that they have to compete. So I'm going to school because I need to get those resources and knowledge, the knowledge that I need to get out here and compete. And that's what I've been saying when I've been campaigning. I don't just see Audrey Marshall as my competition. There's a brother or a sister or whoever in Washington State, in China and Bangladesh that I might have to compete for a job one day. So that's where we need to try to change the dialogue and the culture. I receive what you're saying, Audrey, as far as that goes. And it's not easy necessarily what I'm proposing, but I believe if we will be like-minded, we can get it done in short fashion. So I hear what you're saying, brother, but that just won't cut it for somebody like me. Everybody needs to get up and, like I said before, never stand back and stand down again. So if y'all are serious about it, I think you got the right one. Let's make it happen. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. My name is Robbie Littles. I'm here tonight as a property owner in Riviera Beach, more importantly, as the chairman of the Bridge Builders, which has been fighting for equality and decent treatment for Black folks in Palm Beach County for close to 17, 18 years now. What I'm suggesting is that all of us call at least 20 other people and ask them to join each of us in showing up at the school board workshop and the school board meetings when Attorney Ferguson pushes the school board to build a high school, a comprehensive high school in Riviera Beach. He's raised the issue. We addressed the issue in 98, 99. We pushed the school board to appropriate money to build a Riviera Beach comprehensive community high school on the old Suncoast site once the new Suncoast was built over on Avenue S. They put it on the construction calendar for the 2016-17 school year, as Attorney Ferguson, board member Ferguson alluded to earlier. And then they quietly took it off of the 16-17 calendar year, sent the money down south, somewhere between Boca Raton and West Boynton, and said, to hell with Riviera Beach. That's why Riviera Beach is the only municipality in Palm Beach County where you pay property taxes and school board taxes, but we do not have a public high school in Riviera Beach. That's why 1,700 students, mostly black, go to Gardens, go to Dwyer, go to Lakes, go to the Ox, whatever it is on Military Trail, Oxbridge. So I'm suggesting that we need to show up when it's time for him to show out at the school board and demand that a high school, a comprehensive high school be built in Riviera Beach. I heard in the question earlier about, I guess you were alluding to how are we going to staff it. Let me tell you how you're going to staff it. And representing the bridge builders 8-9 months ago, we went to the school board. And here's how you can make that happen. We propose that in Palm Beach County, the school board go to you, the voters, and say, will you approve a 2 cents increase in sales tax? So instead of paying 7%, 7 cents on a dollar, you pay 9 cents on a dollar. But you know what that 2 cents will create for 10 years? Because if only the voters can approve it, to go to referendum and approve it by voting. That 2 cents additional on sales tax, what we proposed was $269 million a year. And with that money, without hurting the school board budget, would increase, let's just say if we went to referendum in June or July, teachers starting salary as we propose, starting the next school year, would be $85,000. And let the voters in Palm Beach County decide if we truly believe in finding the best candidates coming out of college to teach our children and our grandchildren, we're going to pay them. And so we will pay an extra 2 cents for everything we buy. You know, the children, the grown folks, the older folks, everybody would pay that extra 2 cents, but it would allow us to get the best candidates coming out of college, to attract teachers from probably places all over the country. So that's how we get those teachers. And let the voters decide and say what they really feel about getting and paying teachers with a starting salary of $85,000 a year in Palm Beach County. But immediately, he needs us to show up at the workshops and the school board meetings and demand, not ask. I don't believe in begging for what you owe me. Demand that Riviera Beach have a comprehensive community high school with vocational programming in Riviera Beach inside of the next 5 or 6 years. And that Inlet Grove, as he suggests, move to the quadrant around Lincoln Elementary School, and combining that with the Tate Recreational Complex, the Callaway Recreational Complex, and a modernized or a new gym over there that will be shared by Inlet Grove and the city of Riviera Beach, so we can accomplish both things. But he needs our support. I was at the meeting when he raised the question, and all of the school board members didn't know anything that we're talking about until school board chairman Bobby Airy said, well, I kind of remember us promising them a school and creating the funding pool back around 2009. The more I think about it, it's coming back to me. And the person who managed that then was Sanchez, who is managing school buildings and construction right now. And we asked him at Roosevelt Full Service, when they pulled the money back and shifted it down to Boca, after he gave up, stood up and gave his song and dance and dog and pony show. And I asked him, when are you going to tell these people from Riviera Beach that you're taking the construction of a high school in Riviera Beach off the construction calendar and you're shifting the money down to Boca? Michael Cleveland and I just left. We asked him that question. So we have to be mindful and support our school board member and protect him.
Mr. Littles, I want
Because everybody who looks like us doesn't look out for us.
But before you
Thank you.
leave,
So,
thank you for reminding me about that, Mr. Littles. So when Garcia High School will assist, I want to answer your question. So Garcia High School is built. Nobody's ever mentioned about there being a shortfall for teachers. There's several schools. Cardo, team.
Okay, listen, we're gonna have one more question. We need to wrap this up. I want all of you to make sure that you sign in because I want you to be a part of the Riviera Beach Advisory Committee. I want you to come out and participate. The city is behind it, and I need your help to be able to have these discussions about these issues and show up. We got the last question.
Hi,
Hello.
I'm Tamika Taylor. I actually am a teacher at Inlet Grove, but I
Okay.
started off at elementary all the way to high school. And I wanted to, so I had the pleasure of working. Okay, I had the opportunity to work with more privileged schools in comparison to underprivileged schools. And one thing I have noticed is, as far as addressing the reading and the deficiency,
Mhm.
is that I noticed like the curriculum was different. You know, we took out a lot of phonics and vocabulary that is a part of comprehension and understanding, phonic awareness. All of that is gone. So I work with students now. Like I just got from our student, he's in 5th grade, did his assessment, did everything, looked on his iReady. He couldn't read it. I went back to the phonics that I knew, that I originally got. He's on the 1st grade level, solid. So yes, he is getting pushed up, but I moved him in 2 sessions, almost a grade level. So to me, as far as with the slideshow, that's what my specialty is. Those numbers are very alarming, but it's very possible to move those kids properly when they're properly diagnosed.
Correct.
And the issue, like I go to Texas a lot. They have a program that addresses dyslexia. We don't have that here. And it's a 1 out of 5 students have it. 1 out of 5 people have it. And so I just want to bring that as awareness as to what I'm aware of, and as an educator, that we definitely need to bring into community.
All right, so
Thank you so much. We certainly will have you on our roster. Go ahead and do the closing words.
Oh,
Mr.
yes, ma'am. So program to diagnose dyslexia. I'll reach out for that. Hey, you all who have those flyers, if you scan the QR code on those flyers, you'll have all the school board dates for this upcoming school year. So I invite you all again to be engaged and connected as far as that goes. Hold on one second, Art. Also, the question that was asked by the teacher who left, first of all, when Garcia was constructed, has been constructed, there was no issue about holding off on building the school until we get all the seats, teacher positions filled. There's several elementary schools that are being constructed as well throughout the county. That's not the issue. There will be adequate teachers. First of all, we've just implemented a new program. It came to me while Mr. Littles was talking, where the school district is bringing back retired teachers at a definitely what they should be paying everybody, but nevertheless, they're incentivizing teachers to come back out of retirement. So I'm not concerned about the Riviera Beach High School having a substantial deficit in terms of quality teachers there. All right, you want to say something else? Thank you and good night. What you want to say? Right. Correct.
And people like Wiley and other teachers that are from here that come and they give back, it's going to be the best school because the school is going to be built on the history of it. And it comes from people that were there before, what their purpose was for our students here. And when she talked about that, I remember talking about my daughter was this. And she couldn't, she finally found out what it was, why she couldn't. So it's amazing. But build a school here, you have people that will gladly come home to teach here. So we wouldn't have a problem getting teachers for that school. There's a lot of people that would love to come back because that school will give history and we're going to need a new beginning.
Thank you so much. And we're going to wrap this up. We thank you so much for coming out. I did not mean to stay this long. I did not.
2 hours.
But I thank you so much for coming out. Thank you, Mr. Ferguson, Attorney Ferguson, Board Member Ferguson. We appreciate your presentation. The teachers in the audience, the principals in the audience, the unions in the audience. Thank you guys so much for coming out, and you have a great evening.
And y'all, please email me if there are any things that y'all want to see in future seminars and presentations from me or anybody else at the district. Again, when you see me, I'm going to be bringing resources. So let me know what else you all would like to see from me in the future. Hey, sis.
Hey.